Hi, I'm Karen Salmon, partner here at Marlborough Law, and it's June. So wherever you are, I hope you're enjoying some sunshine after the months and months of rain. We're back together today, Alex, my partner, and Daniel. And we're going to be talking about Daniel and I's favourite subject in the family department is cohabitation. And the reason we brought it up now is, spring has sprung, summer is here, the holidays are about us, and I don't know what it is, but a lot of people decide to move in with each other over the holidays, don't they?
Absolutely.
Daniel spent a lot of time working on agreements with cohabitation, so he's just going to quickly talk about it, aren't you? Just to say what are the pitfalls? What should people be looking out for before they, give the other person the key to the front door?
That's and it is so apt in the modern times. We're hitting times where less people are getting married and more cohabitation, and generally the excitement of moving into a new home, the excitement of being with a new partner, is blinkered and clouded somewhat by the legal implementations of the parties. Should they, we hope they don't, but they do fall out.
Yeah. So that's the last thing on their mind, isn't it? They're too busy down at Dunelm or IKEA buying stuff.
Absolutely.
And they don't think about what's going to possibly go wrong.
No, and you're right. And it is true to be said. The issues that we do have is that then claims start coming forth. Disputes start happening, and that's the last thing we want. And it's about protecting the people beforehand.
Yeah.
Because should you want to bring a claim, and we call it Talata. It's a 1996 Act. Strangely enough, 28 years later, we're now imposing, or parties are imposing the Act of Talata, which is a trust of appointments, trust of land and appointment of trustees. So that and of course there's different sections you can rely upon within the law. What tends to happen is when you take out a mortgage and on your deeds you're signing an express trust within the title deeds, and that would be as normally as tenants in common, and it could be of a specific share. What I tend to find and I tend to hear is that one party has provided a deposit.
Yeah.
Because the mother and father have been more afforded than one party than the other. And then in the dispute, it tends to be rolled back and said, well, I paid for that. My mum paid for that.
Yeah, or I put a new kitchen in.
Yeah, and I did. Exactly. So we always insist that, and we would certainly encourage a declaration of trust for people that were moving in together.
Yeah.
Because that protects both parties, and that declaration can be provided on the title deeds as well, albeit that you can have it attached to it separately.
You can register it against
the deeds. You register it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can register it as well. But it is so important, and a lot of people don't think about it in that honeymoon period and in the aftermath, and it's worth.
But why don't some conveyancers say about that? Because certainly we do. I mean, if somebody said to us, we're going to buy this property, this so-and-so's put the deposit in, we always mention a deed of trust. A lot of solicitors don't, but you should really.
Well, I think so. Yeah. I think if you're a law firm that's out there to support your client and there's client needs both now and in the future, then declaration of trust is really important and to even mention it and advise on it, I would suggest.
Yeah.
And it protects both parties and it removes that dispute, because as the years go on, the parties tend to, or the cohabitation parties may well have children. Well, that has an effect.
Yeah.
And can have an effect. And then one party feels grieved that they want half their house back and they can't have half their house back because they've got a minor under, and the courts then can use the wider discretion as opposed to the strict expressed declaration of trust in front of them. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not a family lawyer, but from looking in, it sort of reminds me a bit of like contracts and why people are somehow say, oh, I don't want a contract because or a formal contract rather, because I think it sort of potentially breaks the relationship we have. We're talking often about people who've worked together for years and years and built up a trust. And you say, well, we have that trust thing. And it strikes me it's almost the reverse of that. If you do trust each other, then you can put it into writing. Is that what you find it's a perception problem where people don't want to do it?
It is a perception problem because they think the other person will be upset. And also, I mean, we've tried we do some cohabitation agreements. We do some prenups. Although, as I think Daniel said previously, they're not binding contracts. They're basically to show the court that there was an intention there. There was intention to have a contract. But people, the cohab. Some people don't want to share, do they? They don't want to. Our questionnaire says, what's your property? What's your joint property? What have you got before? And trying to get them to fill the form in is really difficult. They just don't want to just disclose everything. They're just a little bit wary of it.
Yeah, I think as we go through the modern times, and you'll see in years to come, certainly when I was first aware of prenups that come over from the across the ponds, as what I recognised it as, it was always deemed as one of those things. Well, why are you planning to break up before you marry, or are you planning to break up before you cohabit? And people have that. But actually, what it does do, it does help the parties, give them reassurance, because tendency is, from my understanding, is people will argue in relationships about money, and in fact, one of the biggest arguments I would say is a monetary argument. And we're all struggling, there's cost of livings and what have you, and then to have that argument after a monetary argument is always difficult because both parties are pulling. Whereas if you've got a declaration of trust, even a prenup, which we can provide at Marlborough Law, it gives that little bit of security. Prenups, obviously, as you rightly say, is not legal and binding at the moment.
No.
I know there's a few bills that have been private members' bills that have been going through Parliament, and they are really pushing for the reform of that. And it's encouraging, and I believe that we will see that in the future.
I would love for that to happen. I mean, you and I are members of Resolution, which is, regulates family lawyers, and I've certainly lobbied for it and put my point forward because there is no protection for cohabitees now. Just because you don't choose to be married, that's a personal choice. Why should you be penalised?
Absolutely, and if you do decide to do a prenup, it's always worth reviewing it, especially with big changes, because a lot of people will put it in their top drawer. It can be stored at Marlborough Law, but the most important thing is to review it. I would say that, on a regular basis, like you do a will, and that's a strange thing.
So, at what point do court actually have regards to a prenup then, and in what regard as well?
They can take it into consideration. That's the difficult part. Is a court.
There was intention.
There was intention, and certainly there was Supreme Court hearings that have happened that would apply, but doesn't always apply.
Right. Does it turn on the facts like so much law does? It's you can show a pathway, a history between the parties as to what they meant to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows a pathway because we've dealt with cases where there is no pathway, there's no evidence, there's nothing that we're doing one at the moment, there's nothing we can rely upon. I mean, the partner in this, he's been very clever, he's a businessman, he's been incredibly clever. There's no trail. There's no paper trail or anything. There's not even an engagement ring. We are struggling here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so frustrating from my point of view, and I know, I hope I share your same views, is it's so frustrating to have a client and all of a sudden this is landed on their table and we're like, oh, if only, but for is the best test of all. But for the declaration.
But for a WhatsApp saying I want to marry you, that would be great.
Absolutely. We search high and low for any bit that we can sort of secure it. So it is really important. And like I say, when you change your dynamics of your life, it's revisiting it as well, because that can go against you. Whilst you've got prenup and you can provide that to the courts, it may not be applicable. Like we say, there may be children involved now, and that is really difficult. So it's so frustrating from our point of view. So I would highly recommend it.
So talking about children, because we've been given that sign to wind up. It's June now, and I will get on my high horse, and I do this every year. It's June, separated parents, the school holidays are coming up. It's 21st of July that school finishes in this area. Please sort out your child arrangements over summer. Please do not fight over holidays. Please do not try to outdo people. One goes to Disneyland, Paris, the other one goes to Cornwall or Wales. Not that they're not lovely, but please don't outdo them. And please don't change arrangements at the last minute for children, because they get very confused. They get very upset. If there's anybody out there, separated parents, struggling to come to some agreement, please get in touch with us. No obligation. Let us help you sort it out. Because the last thing I want is upset children over summer holidays with nothing to do, or being let down, or being left out.
Yeah, and the only person that gets affected is a child.
Exactly.
Or children.
Yeah, and we don't want that. So once again, thanks for listening. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. We will be taking a short break over the summer, and we'll be back in September with hopefully some new changes in the law. Thanks very much.